2025 was a year with a variety of promising releases. Miracle sequels like Silksong finally came out, legacy series like Yakuza continue going strong, and even a character action giant like Ninja Gaiden returned in full swing with a new mainline. But even in a year as packed as this, one game still stood out in its own right. On April 24th, we saw the release of Expedition 33, a game that took the world by storm, became the strongest Game of the Year contender, and is seen as a glowing accomplishment for the medium as a whole. The impact of its launch is undeniable. Between awe-inspiring sales for an original game, the fact such a small team created an experience brimming with depth and scale, and the fact that even the biggest detractors of turn-based combat and JRPG-inspired games actually saw the value of this entry. It's very much a case of lightning in a bottle, but a meteoric rise like this always comes with a substantial degree of skepticism. So today, rather than simply saying the game is peak and stopping at that, I will briefly go over why so many people seem to love this game, and how its legacy in the making may affect gaming at large. Let's start with what I consider to be Expedition's greatest quality: the way it blends genres. Sandfall Interactive has been very open about their influences here, and they've shown reverence for a variety of beloved JRPGs, while also implementing great design choices commonly associated with Souls-likes. Speaking from personal experience, I know people who love JRPGs but hate Souls-likes, and vice versa. Yet in both cases, I've seen both groups completely blown away by how Expedition blended such different genres in a way where neither overshadowed the other. For example, on the JRPG side, you have turn-based combat, engaging party interactions, a classic overworld, and a multi-layered narrative with thoughtful foreshadowing along the way. On the Souls-like side, you have build variety, a very particular parry emphasis, environmental storytelling to embellish the core narrative, and so on. There are even some nods to character action games like Devil May Cry, most evident in Verso's moveset and the existence of his style meter. This is a mishmash of everything, yet you'll notice how the developers only chose elements from their influences that would best benefit this end product, rather than just copying any and all design choices because they were integral to a given genre. If having 100 side quests doesn't benefit your vision, then just include a handful that feel substantial. In a similar vein, if you believe a high difficulty would put off too many people from the experience, add in an easy mode of sorts so they can steadily improve and try the higher difficulties at a later point. That's what's so interesting about this game, that while it absolutely is a love letter to so many things, it's not trying to adhere to any one side fully. And the end result is an endearingly unique experience many will love for reasons specific to them. Next up, we have the story. And while I won't state any direct spoilers for this game here, beware of potential ones stemming from the comment section. The narrative in Expedition 33 has a variety of positives to it. It is brimming with depth and moral complexity, with each act essentially telling a different type of story than the one that preceded it. Perspectives change frequently. The way we perceive well-known concepts like loss, love, or existence as a whole will all be examined and deconstructed in ways we may not immediately understand, but will benefit from having explored regardless. The pacing is immaculate, and the fact that a modern RPG could tell so much within a relatively short runtime, at least compared to its contemporaries, is another case of working to your project's strengths. If you just focus on the critical path and don't ponder on the deeper meaning of the character's actions, you'll still be left with a compelling experience, where the emotions on display, the foreshadowing present, and the tying up of narrative threads introduced an act or two ago will leave you with a great sense of resolution by the end. Should you look up all of the hidden journals from past expeditions, however, or pay close attention to the body language of any character during crucial exchanges, you'll note that this game's world has shown its hand to you from the very moment you've stepped foot on this journey. As a result, all of the emotions you felt from the critical path on your first run will now be immeasurably amplified, to the point where you'll seek out hours upon hours of lore compilations or theories on future stories within the Clair Obscur franchise. It's rare to find a game so confident in the messages it wishes to share, yet still leaving room for the player to make their own decisions on what's right by the end, which is most apparent in the way our journey concludes. But that's a story for another time. The characters, by extension, serve as the perfect in-between that marries the story and gameplay elements into a cohesive whole. There are times in gaming where there's a grand disconnect between what a character says and what they can do through gameplay, where developers will often choose either player freedom or the sanctity of their storytelling to take precedence over the other design element. In Expedition, however, every character's gameplay stands out in ways that makes perfect sense for their characterization. Verso's playstyle emphasizes martyrdom and the strive for perfection, the former being exemplified in the otherwise sheltered aggression that shows itself in his attacks, alongside the skill that degrades him to empower those around him. The pursuit of perfection, on the other hand, is another great fit for him, considering the mastery and nuance expected of a passionate musician, something that Verso would know quite a bit about. By comparison, Lune's passion for understanding and researching the world around her is exemplified in how she utilizes various elemental stains to great effect, combining them as a scientist would in uncovering a knowledge yet undiscovered. Gustav's overdrive, feeling like an all-or-nothing type of choice, mirroring the nature of expeditions at large, the motivation behind Monoko's feat collection and how it plays into his image, all of these choices serve not only to make every character feel like their own entity, but again, benefit the ludonarrative harmony between what they say in the story and what they can do in gameplay. This is without going into their personal flaws and qualities, which will be the subject of a later analysis. But in essence, these characters are tailor-made for the experience Expedition wishes to be, and I love them dearly for it. Speaking broadly, it is the unique blend of gameplay elements, engaging characters, and a believable synergy between them that creates the core of this game, with everything else just elevating that strong basis. You have a myriad of customization options, challenging gestural games, compelling secret bosses and dungeons, a manageable variety of collectibles, and dear lord, the soundtrack deserves its own deep dive. But while I largely focused on the positive sides behind this game's meteoric rise, we also can't overlook an unfortunate byproduct of the online discourse. The use of absolutes when describing the experience this game grants has led to quite a bit of division. It's a given that a game having such wide-reaching appeal would attract a variety of opinions, but at present time, I've seen a bunch of people refuse to play this entry just by nature of how select fans present it as infallible and the resurrection of JRPGs in spirit. Frankly, considering the choice of words present, and how some people would even put down games or elements without which Expedition wouldn't exist, I can't blame those who've yet to play this entry for their skepticism. Now, without going over the irony of some of these statements, like calling the game a rebirth of turn-based combat, when Persona is literally cited as a source of inspiration, or how strange it is to hate on JRPGs while loving this game, even though it's a literal love letter to them, I think the reason for the diverse discourse ultimately boils down to a passion project like this one finally clicking with so many people at once. I've gone on record as having a complex history with JRPGs, with Yakuza 7 being the first game that finally made me understand their appeal, which allowed me to fully immerse myself in Final Fantasy and Persona soon after. Expedition seems to be having a similar effect on a lot of people, because while there's nothing quite like it at present time, it could still be a gateway for a grander audience to uncover some lesser-known JRPGs of the past 20+ years. Or hell, maybe even remove some doubt regarding the quality of popular entries like Persona 5. Cause believe me, I've seen people outright refuse to play it because everyone called it one of the best games ever. Kind of like what's happening with Expedition as we speak. Now, don't get me wrong, this game is not the greatest thing since the invention of baguettes, but you should never let Twitter comments dictate whether or not you'll try something new. I can only speak for myself here, but I absolutely love this game, and believe it's worth giving a shot, even if you're not sure about some of its elements. It might just be the breath of fresh air that you were looking for in the end. As for how its success may impact AAA development as a whole, Honestly, with teams like Sandfall and Larian sticking to what they adore, I think it will motivate many up-and-coming developers to be just as candid about their future endeavors, and maybe remind legacy IP holders what this medium was all about back in the day. Either way, this officially marks the beginning of my Expedition 33 coverage on the channel. There's a bunch of topics on it that I want to cover alongside my regular type of content. So if this video was up to your liking, let me know. Thank you for your time, and I hope to see you again really soon. So, until next time, take care of yourselves and have a great day. Cheers!